It's that time of the year already, which seems absolutely crazy because it was yesterday, well it seems like yesterday, that I was sat in this seat talking about all the summer transfer rumours, the summer signings, departures, etc. But as we near the start of December, it's time for the transfer rumour mill to get back underway for Wrexham Football Club. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of players that could be leaving Wrexham in the January transfer window, and a rumour which has just completely blown my mind and has blown a lot of Wrexham fans' minds. This news might be a week or two old because I've been very busy with university work and stuff. It's a lot to balance, bringing content and obviously working on my university stuff. But before we get going in today's video, if you'd like to see more Wrexham AFC content, make sure to drop a like, make sure to get down there as well and click the red subscribe button. We are on the road to 29,000 subscribers. Any new subscriptions are massively appreciated. There'll be plenty of content coming your way over the next month or two, so yeah, be prepared for that. Could turn the notification bell on as well so you're notified every time a video does come out onto the channel. And without further ado, let's get looking first on a possible departure in the next coming weeks. So sources did come out about a week or two ago reporting that Ryan Hardie is considering a move away from Wrexham Football Club in the upcoming transfer window in pursuit of regular first team football, which was expected, I think, from Wrexham fans at the start when Hardie did first sign. But as time goes on, as signings were made in the summer transfer window, and as time went on in the start of the Championship season, we've quickly learned that Ryan Hardie is probably never going to be a starting striker in this Wrexham team across the board of the 25-26 season. And like I've said, in all honesty, it doesn't surprise me that Hardie is pushing for a move away from Wrexham, or if the rumours aren't true, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if behind the scenes Hardie has knocked on Parky's door and said, look, if the situation isn't going to improve, can I go somewhere else and get regular first team football? Because Hardie's a type of striker that has got a lot of energy, can score goals. He's obviously raring to get regular football. You can tell by the type of player he is on the pitch. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do see Ryan Hardie leave. Like I said, we've seen him as our first summer signing in the Championship season. You know, when that first signing happens, I don't think we made one until after the Australian tour. So a lot of fans were looking into the style of play that Ryan Hardie would bring to the Wrexham setup and what he potentially brings to the team in terms of goals, build-up play, him as a striker, what he would be as that forward player in this Wrexham setup. And I was expecting a striker personally, you can see my video on the channel, that would run his socks off for 90 minutes, be sharp in front of goal, be that clinical goal scorer in this Wrexham setup, and ultimately be a regular up front. I think we paid £700,000 for him. He came off the back of a double-digit goal-scoring season from a relegated Plymouth Argyle side, and you know, we look at that now into the current day for Wrexham in the Championship. We've not seen any of those that we were expecting Hardie to bring into the Wrexham team. 167 minutes of Championship football, 2 starts, 0 goals. It's quite the opposite from what I expected, and definitely from a lot of Wrexham fans, what they expected from Ryan Hardie when he did first sign. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's Ryan Hardie's fault. I don't think any of this is Ryan Hardie's fault. I can't imagine him being a player that doesn't train well week in, week out. I can imagine he trains really well. It is just a matter of fact that Wrexham have so much depth and so much competition in that forward line, and we've got players that, you know, are playing up front at the minute that are scoring goals for fun. We've got Nathan Broadhead, who scored the other day against Bristol City. Kiefer Moyes nearly in double digits for Wrexham this season. We've got Josh Windass, who's nearly at double digits for goals and assists in the Championship. So for a player like Ryan Hardie to come in and cement himself as a regular starter in this Wrexham team, of course, going forward, is just going to be a very, very tough ask for him personally. Obviously, I do think he's got the attributes. I think he's got the quality to be a regular for a Championship team this season, but I just don't think that's going to come at Wrexham. And whether he's happy to be that player that will come off the bench for the last 10-15 minutes, I really don't know. I think him as a player, obviously seeing him move up from Plymouth Argyle, which, if you don't know the UK, it's the opposite end of the country. You'll have moved to a completely different area, 5 hours from home where he's been for the past 3 or 4 years, to then come to Wrexham and only get 2 starts in the Championship at the start of December. I think he'll be really disappointed. And like I said about competition and players, after the signing of Ryan Hardie, we then went on to sign 3 players who were Championship proven. We've got Windass, we've got Kiefer Moore, we've got Nathan Broadhead, we've got the existing players, Sam Smith up front, for example. Jay Rodriguez, yes, he's not played a role, but he's going to be another player that's coming back from injury and will be knocking on the door to be in contention in this Wrexham squad. So it's going to be hard for Hardie to come back, and it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we do see possibly a loan move in the January transfer window. And if you're looking at Hardie's style of play, we've got Kiefer Moore in this Wrexham setup, who is going to be that starting striker week in, week out for us. There's no chance that I see Kiefer Moore getting dropped from now until the end of the season. Touch wood there's no injury, suspensions, etc. So you're going to need a striker that's going to complement Kiefer Moore's style of play. And I think Ryan Hardie's play is so similar to Kiefer Moore. They tried it away at Millwall. It worked, we won 2-0, but I think in terms of the combination of those two, it's either going to be one of them's going to have, an 8 out of 10, the other's going to have a 5.5, 6 out of 10. And it's what we saw away at Millwall. Hardie didn't get much of the ball, much of the play, much of the action in the final third. So yeah, I don't know about this one. We need a player that's going to complement his style of play really effectively. Kiefer Moore, that is, and I don't think Ryan Hardie is that player. I am surprised that Hardie hasn't played more football in this Wrexham setup, because you look at his attributes, he's everything you want a striker to have in this league, especially with the defence that they like to keep hold of the ball. It's possession based. If you're going to have a striker like Hardie who's going to press and press and press until an error is forced by the opposition, I'm a bit surprised that he's only got 2 starts and only 160 minutes of play in the Championship, which is less than 2 games across the whole of the season, which is absolutely crazy considering where he was last season for Plymouth. But again, it's Phil Parkinson's decision. His decision is to pick a team that's going to be competitive every single week and a team that's going to go out there and get 3 points. And it's clear that Ryan Hardie isn't going to be part of those plans consistently in the first 11 week in, week out. And like I said before, with him relocating from Plymouth just a few months ago, I'm sure him and his family will have just settled down in Wrexham. So to not get the game time he wants, you're going to have to look at this in a geographical sense. There's a lot more to it than he's not getting game time, he needs to go. You're going to look at this, relocating again for Hardie. It's not ideal a couple of months into a long-term Wrexham contract. If we are going to see Hardie leave in the January transfer window, I think it's going to be to a northern team. Obviously, we've got ties before with Wigan, we've had Altrincham on loan. There's a lot of teams sort of in and around the area that's of like a 2-hour radius from Wrexham. So if Hardie is going to leave, I can imagine it being sort of, I'm not going to say names, but if you are looking at a team, for example, like a Bolton, like a Blackpool, a team up north, so he doesn't have to relocate, completely move out with his family again, which I don't think he would appreciate much. So we'll have to wait and see on this front, but I do think a move on loan in January is definitely on the cards for Hardie. Let me know your thoughts as well in the comment section down below. Would you like to see more of Hardie in the Wrexham team, or do you think his days are completely gone at Wrexham? Talking next on James McClean. Now, reports emerged in the Irish media a couple of weeks ago saying that James McClean could make a sensational return to Irish side Derry City on loan if his game time doesn't improve at Wrexham. Since these reports have come out, it has sort of been a hit back to those reports, because we've seen the injury of Issa Kabore. James McClean has come into the Wrexham team and has played the last 2 games and has performed to a really high standard. Ipswich Town away, he was part of the backline that kept a clean sheet and a very solid defensively display from him personally. Bristol City the other day, 2-0 win. McClean played a full 180 minutes across 2 games and has put in 2 very solid defensive displays. So on this front, I don't really know what's going to happen in January. McClean, of course, publicly spoke out a couple of weeks ago about the lack of game time at Wrexham and how he wasn't enjoying it as much in comparison to when he was playing regularly. There's obviously going to be a conversation between Parky and McClean about this situation, but since then, McClean has come into the starting lineup and is just James McClean that we all know. He's put in 110%, he's played really well across the 2 games, and again, you look at players in this team, Parky has a really good sort of history of, bringing those players in that might not have, been in contention to start a couple of weeks ago. The likes of Mark Howard, for example, last season. If a player has 1 or 2 good games, they're going to keep their spot, and, McClean has done nothing, to get dropped in the next couple of games. So we've got Blackburn tomorrow. I can more than see McClean starting against them. So he was obviously frustrated by his lack of game time, but we'll have to wait and see on what happens for McClean in the January transfer window. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to make that loan move until the end of the year. Again, he wants to end his career at Derry City. I think he's publicly spoken about that, but in the January transfer window, it would all seem a bit rushed. We'd be losing an extra player in that sort of role that can play at left wing back, can play higher up the pitch. So yeah, if we are to get another injury, I think Phil Parkinson will not let McClean leave in the January transfer window. But let me know your thoughts. Would you let McClean go in January, or would you keep him on? And finishing off the video with some really crazy news with a possible player coming into Wrexham Football Club in the next coming weeks. Some news came out the other week from a journalist, Peter O'Rourke, claiming that Wrexham have entered the race to sign 18-year-old forward Sidiki Cherif in a deal that would be in the region of £17 million, which is what French Ligue 1 side Angers value him at the minute. Again, yes, I've really just said those words. Wrexham are looking at a player that's valued at £17 million. To be honest, nothing surprises me anymore at Wrexham because we've just gone from strength to strength in the transfer windows. We signed player to player. We've obviously spent £10 million on Broadhead in the summer. And if we are looking to bring a player from Ligue 1, the top league in France, Sidiki as well, if you're looking at him as a striker, he's really burst onto the scene this season in the top flight of French football for obviously Angers in the top league of French football. He's got 3 goals to his name this season and has hit form really well in the past sort of 4, 5, 6 games, with his 3 goals this season coming against Marseille, Lorient and Monaco, so some really well established clubs over in France. And 18 years old. If you are looking at this as well, 18-year-old striker Cherif is going to have a lot of interest in him in the January transfer window. There's going to be a lot of clubs coming in for him, obviously registering their interest maybe for the summer. Maybe they'll wait and see how he does do over the course of the season. But when you see an 18-year-old striker who's getting regular football, scoring goals, there is going to be a whole host of clubs after him. And I think one of the main things about Cherif is just his ability to adapt to such demanding and such competitive football at such a young age. Obviously, he's been brought in at the start of the season, thrown into the deep end, but he's proven it in one of the most competitive leagues in the world. But then you've got to ask yourself, is £17 million a lot of money to spend in the January transfer window for an 18-year-old player who, yes, has proven himself for the first 13 games of the season, but it's a lot of money in Wrexham's sense, and I think in this scenario it's high risk, high reward for Wrexham because we're spending 17 million, the risk is so high for him to fail, but then you're looking at the reward, it's such a high reward. If you get Cherif in and he scores 15, 20 goals, then all of a sudden his price tag's doubled in the summer transfer window or possibly in future transfer windows, so you've got to look at it on that sense. But it's a big question as to whether, as well, Cherif wants that championship move, whether he wants to stay over in France or whether he wants to go and get that Premier League move at such a young age. We've seen the likes of Sunderland and Newcastle are reportedly showing interest in Cherif and want the young talent on their cards in the January transfer window. Again, I would at this moment in time take these transfer rumours with a pinch of salt because anyone can say anything. We've seen journalists before use Wrexham's name for obviously clicks and views, etc. We've seen agents use their names for, players to drive up their potential market value. But Peter O'Rourke has a kind of good history of Wrexham and isn't going to be that type of journalist that would go out there and just make up complete and utter rubbish. So I do think there might be some truth. I don't know whether it will happen in the January transfer window, but I'm sure Wrexham, it will do no harm in us registering interest in this young talent. So if we are looking at Cherif as a striker, he would 100% be the fit of a striker that every Wrexham fan and every fan across the Championship would love to have in their team. He's 18, he's going to bring pace to our front line, he's going to add that consistent press, unease in the defence. His runs in behind the defence as well is said to be one of his main attributes to his game over the course of the first 13 games of the season over in France. And although Wrexham don't currently operate in a system which plays wingers from the start, his versatility is something that Wrexham could utilise if we are chasing the game. If we're losing 1-0 in the last 30-35 minutes, we could do sort of a tweak in our formation, put Sidiki Cherif on the wing and let him cut inside, let him take on his man, put the cross into the box. So I think as well, he's very flexible across the front line. He can play striker, he could probably play in central attacking midfield, he can play on either wing. But if you're looking at Cherif as a player, his main attributes, he's going to be a good ball carrier, good going forward, good eye for goal, and I think he's going to be very effective for us if he does sign in advanced positions. And if he is in the right setup, I think he is going to score goals because he's proven it at such a young age already. He's got that confidence to just go out there and score week in, week out. Although we haven't seen it, I think we have seen glimpses if we are just simply looking at his stats this season. And his stats this season obviously do back that up. 3 goals, 22 shots, which I think says a lot about him as a striker. He gets the ball and isn't afraid to get a shot off on goal. Yes, he's only scored 3 goals out of those 22 shots, but you're looking at an 18-year-old. He is 18 years old. There's no point making any judgments saying, oh my God, why are we signing a striker that's only scored 3 goals, that's, got a £17 million price tag on him. I do think the potential and the ceiling for Sidiki Cherif to be one of the best players in Championship football, I don't think that's hiding the fact. And yes, you'd probably be watching at home thinking, oh my God, he's just gassing him up because Wrexham have been linked with him. You're always going to do that. But, you're looking at a player like this, to bring him over to the Championship, I do think there is so much potential and so much possibility for him to be one of the top players, because his stats do just back that up. 9 successful dribbles, 285 touches on the ball, so he's a player that likes to get on the ball, likes to make that moment of magic happen in the final third. Yes, he hasn't got all the goals and assists to his name so far, but as time goes on, as he gets older and continues to adapt, he's still probably, growing as a person and still adapting and still sort of just becoming a man. I think once he does hit that sort of phase, that 19, 20 years old, he's going to be a really good player. So if he signs for Wrexham or not, remember the name Sidiki Cherif, because I think the potential is there for him to go all the way. So that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, make sure to get down there in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on possibly McClean and Hardie leaving. Would you like Cherif to come into the football club? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Is there any other players that you do think would leave Wrexham in the upcoming transfer window? Like I said, all your thoughts are welcome in the comment section down below. I love listening to them, I love reading the comments as well. And yeah, the EFL stickers have come out, and when I tell you I have looked everywhere in Manchester for the EFL stickers, you'd think in a built-up city, one of the biggest in the UK, you could just walk into the shop and they'd have everything. I think I must have checked at least 5 or 6 shops in my area to look for the stickers. Nowhere had them. I come back to North Wales and the first shop I go into, they're just there. I don't get it, but I've opened a couple of packets. I've got my albums to the side here. I've stuck all the ones in, and surprisingly, I don't know if this is by chance or this is just a complete coincidence, I got Wrexham players the most out of any other clubs. I've got 3 duplicates here of Wrexham players, and there's some Championship clubs that I've not even got a player for. I think I've got 5 players in the sticker album already, but Lewis O'Brien, Kiefer Moore and Ryan Barnett, so it's a massive moment for Wrexham fans, for EFL fans to see, such a good product come back in. The only complaint I would have, I think, is the album. I've seen a lot of people complaining before I did buy the album, saying the middle page has come out, and literally I got it out the packet because I opened the packets first and then got the album out. I opened the book to stick 1 sticker in, had a flick through, and the middle page just comes out, so it's quite disappointing. I think if they'd have brought a hardback version of the album out, I'm sure people would have paid an extra £5 or £6 for that. But again, if you would like to see some Panini EFL content, then make sure to drop a like. Let's go for 500 likes on today's video, and who knows, we might see a road to filling the Wrexham page up in the sticker album. So until the next video, take care guys. Let's keep our fingers crossed for a big 3 points yet again tomorrow against Blackburn Rovers, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care guys, up the town.